SLC members. I'm excited tonight. So we're doing something kind of fun tonight. We're talking about the spirit of entrepreneurship, or the entrepreneurial spirit. And I'm excited that I get to bring this segment to you. My husband and I have recently gone off into an adventure of entrepreneurship in the last few years. And I thought I'd just kind of tell you and share a little bit of our story and our journey as we've taken that path, and how we got there and what we did. And hopefully you guys maybe read my blog last week, where I talked about kind of the things that an entrepreneur really needs to be successful. And we're going to hone in on that a little bit and talk about those things, but I'm excited. So SLC members, this is my husband, Steve. And so you've probably seen a lot of pictures of him on our website, but we're coming to you tonight, just kind of share our story. So I thought we'd start off with, really Steve is the one who's jumped full force, a whole foot or a whole body, or all the way in, but from dipping our toe to complete immersion in entrepreneurship. And I really help kind of on a part-time basis, with his business, maybe doing the books and different things. So I thought we'd start by telling us, like, Steve, how did you get here? So you went from, what helped make this decision for you? So you went from like a corporate job that you'd been in the same field for about 20 years to being like, hey, I want to be a dog trainer. That's what I want to do. So tell us, like, how you got there, the thought process, and how that happened.
Yeah, so I was in IT for about 20 years. Did a number of different types of jobs in IT, mostly working in banks. And just like, I suppose a lot of people, came home, complained to my wife about my job and didn't like what I was doing. And after 20 years, it gets old. And she said, why don't you just do what you want to do? Go train dogs. That's what you want to do. So by then, we'd already researched some stuff and looked at some different schools and that kind of thing. And so just took the plunge and burned up my savings and went to school. I left home and was she held down the house for about 6 months while I was living in a dorm like a teenager again. And yeah.
So, I talk a lot in my blog about, again, I think we always want to be in the center of God's will in everything that we're doing. And so, and to pray and, for all these things. So what was that process like? And you're just like, kind of like, hey, I want to do this, but what was that actual process like for you? And how do you feel like God actually prepared you? Because, let's be honest, we're not young. We've got, I always point out our gray. I would have gray if not for, wonderful hairdressers. But she knows, like, making me look good. But, so, in thinking about, how God kind of got you ready for entrepreneurship, through your life, and you jumped into it at like 46 because you're free. So what was that process like? And how did you get there with God in those things?
Yeah. So, I prayed a lot about it. And I'll be real honest with you, I would have much preferred it if God would have just, gave me a dream or something, said, Steve, go be a dog trainer. But that didn't happen. And, but I did have, I guess, a piece about it. And, so we started making preparations for it. And, what we found was, as we started to make preparations, it seemed like the doors opened and opportunities made themselves available. Things that probably wouldn't have normally happened things just seemed to line up, and worked out really well. I had about a month of vacation for my job, and so I was able to take that, and that allowed me the time that I needed to get down to North Carolina, and spend a month doing the program and deciding whether or not that was the route that I wanted to go. And then I put in my notice and was able to move forward. So yeah, it's been a crazy ride.
Yeah, and kind of in that preparation and talking about that, and I talk about that in my blog a little bit, money, time management, and planning. And before Steve and I decided to do this, one thing I would say, again, just giving your best foot forward and doing and being able to make this jump is to set you and your family up for success. And there was a lot of things that we did previously to getting here where I think, and I hope you agree with this, that you actually felt the freedom to say, I could take this leap now. And some of that preparation and work was, we worked really hard to get out of all consumer debt so that we really only have to pay our mortgage every month. That's our place to live. And we, cut down on expenses and learn to live off of one income, so that we knew as Steve, ventured into this, that he probably wouldn't be making any income. And most entrepreneurs know this. You don't necessarily make any income your first 2 to 3 years. And most of what you're making in that business, you might be making a profit, but it's going right back into that business to generate more flow and more forward momentum for you. And so we realized that going in and what that was going to take. And so one of the ways to get there was, really working to pay off that debt. So we did have options. And, Steve talks about the money he saved. We saved money for car money. So just giving you a good example, he saved all of his mileage checks. So instead of living off of these extras, bonuses we get from work for cell phones and mileage and all these things, we put it into a savings account to say, hey, eventually I'd like to be able to pay that car in cash, right? And so he was really saving for a new car. That's what we used it for. But when this opportunity came and God was really opening some doors, we said, if you could use that money for anything, would you buy a car or would you pursue this dream? And it afforded him the opportunity to do that because he was diligent in saving, and we were diligent in paying off the debt and really trying to be obedient in that way to create more opportunities for ourselves. So I just want to encourage everyone out there that, it seems like so we're starting late in life, but part of that was God preparing us financially, preparing us emotionally and spiritually, and preparing you to take on kind of a new role, right? I mean, this is like a whole new, you've never even been in management before.
Yeah. So now I'm managing a business, I'm managing employees, and running a business. It's a completely different venture than what I did before it. And I mean, I can't imagine a more opposite type of job than IT. To be a dog trainer. But I do want to say one other thing too in regards to saving the money too, was that I saved for probably 8 or 10 years.
Yes.
Saving that mileage money to buy a car with that. And it was a good indicator to me that I was ready to make that step too, because I was willing to say, all this work that I put into it, I'm willing to let that go. I'm willing to sacrifice the new car to step off and do something different, knowing full well that in the first couple of years I wasn't going to make probably very much money, and I'm still driving the car I was driving.
They both are.
And it's still holding on. So, now do I know where the next car is coming from? I don't.
Not yet.
But that's all part of the adventure, I guess. It's Lord's blessing, and we just keep moving forward. I'm still not making the kind of money I was making in IT, to be real honest with you. But I'm getting to do something that I like doing, and it's been worth it. So.
I think I was talking to another entrepreneur last night, and we were just talking about being sacrificial. And when you really get into entrepreneurship, you learn more about sacrifice, I think, than you ever have before, whether that's sacrifice of time with your family, sacrifice of money and resources, sacrifice of wants, not needs, but, the wants and some needs, different things, and so you really, I think, understand sacrifice in a different way, and really have to be willing to think about that in a new and challenging way of, am I willing to sacrifice, time with my family to be able to, get the job done? Am I willing to sacrifice, not buying that new car, or not, repairing everything for the next 3 years, rather than buying a new washer and dryer, or, whatever. That's my big thing. I want a washer and dryer really bad. But, I'm willing to sacrifice that, right? Because, we've chosen, to go down this path. But so I would say, part of that being passionate about what you do is also being willing to and understanding that there are sacrifices that have to be made as you are in a startup and really getting going with this, even before you get started, preparing for those sacrifices. Steve and I moving to live off one income, we tried that out for about 6 months before he left for school, just to say, how does this feel? What does this feel like? And what is it like really living off one income? What does our life look like? And what changes did we need to make personally? What did we need to cut back on? What were we willing to give up to pursue this dream and make this happen? And so I really say, think about that too, as you're going into this. So tell me, how has your life changed since starting this? Or like, have you noticed any changes in yourself, or, different things, or what's different than what you kind of anticipated?
I work about 100 hours a week. I mean, I knew that I knew I was gonna work more, but you really can't. I mean, you think about it, you're like, I don't know really how that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always stuff to do until the wee hours.
Yeah.
To be ready for the next day, or
Right.
to try and sew up what you did today. And sometimes you go to bed and you still have things that probably would have been nice to get done.
Yeah, I think some things that, you get so excited when you're in the startup phase, right? You're like, yeah, I'm willing to make all the sacrifices, and I'm willing to, and then all of a sudden you get into it, and then even the first 6 months are kind of exciting. You should buy new equipment or whatever it is you're doing, you're just really invested, and you're coming up with ideas. And then I think what happens probably after the first 6 or 9 months, definitely the first year, is reality really sets in of this is like, wow, this is hard. This is a job. This is my life now. This is what I'm doing. And can talk about that a little bit as you've been going through this, just discouragement, or like what,
Yeah. So when I first came up with this plan, it really wasn't to be the dog trainer that I am today.
Mm-hmm.
My original plan was that I wanted to train protection dogs. I had this vision in my mind of wanting to train protection dogs that I could loan out or sell to maybe like battered women or elderly people, with the idea in mind that, they could use the dog as for defensive reasons. So like a woman who, would gather up the courage to leave an abusive relationship could borrow a dog or buy a dog from me, and have that extra security, that feeling of, I can go to sleep at night, my dog will alert me if there's some problem, and the dog would actually be able to defend the home. Most people that have dogs that are sharper, if you will, or think that, nobody could just come in here. And what we found through a lot of studies is that you have a dog that is more defensive, but is also very fearful. And so if you have a strong personality, that person will just walk right in and the dog will actually back down. So that was my goal. I wanted to create defense dogs. Reality is that even though those dogs are very expensive, there's not a great big market for it. And when you consider the fact that if a woman's leaving her spouse, she's probably getting away with barely anything to live on, let alone have enough money to buy a dog. But even if I could, loan them, there's just a number of problems that it doesn't work as well. And so I train mostly pet dogs, which is great. I mean, I have the opportunity to help a lot of people get through issues with their dogs, that would otherwise be breaking their hearts. I mean, people get a dog and things start going south on them after about a year. They're too invested in the dog to just get rid of it, but the dog's making their life miserable. And so I have the ability to kind of step in and hopefully lend some guidance and some help, and send them home a well enough trained dog, that they can enjoy the dog finally. And they're going to have that dog for 8 to 10 years most of the times. When people start to see problems, it's usually in the first year or 2 years.
So did you get discouraged when you realized like this business wasn't what I drew? Like I had this dream and it was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But this is the reality.
Yeah.
Like what? I mean.
Well, yeah, and on a number of fronts. When you do training as a hobby, you don't see the repetition that comes from, when you're really trying to make a living at it. And you've got 12 dogs stacked up, and every dog you're doing the same thing every day, same thing. Trying to reinforce that skill in the dog. That was getting very discouraging. And there were a lot of times when I thought, I don't know, what was I thinking, trying to do this. And I'm starting to question, was I reading this situation right? I mean, yeah, God opened the doors, but does that mean that that's necessarily what he wanted me to do? And a lot of questions came to mind, and there was a few nights when we had some conversations about that.
Yeah.
Luckily, my wife is very supportive, and she would say, let's just get through this year. Let's just get through the next couple of steps. It's not going to make any sense to just bail right now. Let's just kind of hang in there. And that allowed me to, remember something that I'd always learned, and things that I had said to you about our marriage, even, is that you're going to have good days and bad days, and you're going to have bad months and good months, and bad years and good years, and you have to take all that stuff together and say, you know what, I'm just gonna try and write it out. Just because I'm in a down moment, I can't make decisions in a down moment. I gotta make a decision, when it makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't know if I mentioned that in my blog. I mentioned really praying and seeking out God, but a wise counsel and a support system for an entrepreneur is key to your success. I think even, with that in partnering in this, if you are feeling discouraged, I can say, come on, we can, let's just stick this out. Let's do it. What would it take to get through the next month? What would it take to get through the next 3 months? And if I'm discouraged about what you're doing, you're kind of like, I'm just going to keep pushing through, or different things, or we're maybe just not seen. And so it's so great to have, a great support system. And however you work that out, I would say having wise counsel around you to give you advice. You will get stuck. You will get challenged. Your business will not turn out exactly as you imagine it's going to go. You're probably not going to make as much money up front as you thought you were going to, or the sea of endless possibilities, right? That you really kind of imagine. And it might be a completely different business a year later than it was when you started. And the kind of that dream that you had. And so, the question is, can you shift and can you pivot? And, that entrepreneurial spirit of, I'm going to make this work, and I'm going to find those people who can support me and who can push me, who can help me, make this dream come true. So I think that's a lot of things that every entrepreneur faces. I don't think I've talked to anyone who hasn't said, man, I've hit some discouragement and, some disappointment, or my business isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, or it's not turning out exactly, but it's actually better in some ways, than maybe that original idea that you had. And you're developing these great relationships with people that you've, brought into your inner circle, or, if you want to call them, if you have a board of directors, or again, those people who are really helping you out and can support and encourage you through this process. Because it can get very challenging and very discouraging when you're working 80 to 100 hours a week and you're not making what you used to make when you worked 40 hours. All of a sudden, reality sets in. It's like, what is it worth it? What am I doing? And I think that's really where the passion comes in. Being an entrepreneur, do you love what you're doing? Because you're not going to make those sacrifices if you don't love it. You're just not. You have to really love it, right? Yeah, I don't know how to put that for you, but you got to get into it and know this is what I want to do, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to stick it out. I'd encourage you to, I think we said, we probably need to stick it out for 3 to 5 years to see what happens. You got to be committed to the idea, because it might not move as fast as you want it to move, and the return isn't as great as you thought it was going to be, but what are you doing with it? And, can you stick it out and see what happens and see what God transforms it into? I think it's kind of the exciting part about it is, when you are taking this before God, and when you are praying over your business and laying it before him, is asking him, like, transform this. What do you want this to be?
Well, I think another important thing too is seeing it for more than just a job.
Yeah.
Right. For me, I think God has shown me so much about what he can do with my life, in all the challenges. So, it's so much more than just working and making money, but it's also about who God is making you to be in that process. There are plenty of days when I'm just like, Lord, you got to get me through the end of this day. You got to get me through the end of this week. And, he's teaching me through that, look, you can make it through this. You can do way more than you ever thought you would be able to do. And he just, it's just awesome. It's so, praiseworthy, when I look at what God is doing, and I just, in the pain, you say, Lord, you are Lord, and the ability to just learn to worship him even through the struggle. It's just making me into a different person. Absolutely.
That's awesome. I don't know what more I have to say about that. That's like a good upper right there. That's some good stuff, people. If you haven't checked out our business, I actually didn't even mention the name of your business, and I should mention that. It's Fidelity K9. So, hey, check us out, online, and check out our website, and check out more about Serenity Leadership. We're here for you. I want to let, entrepreneurs know, like, not go in this alone, man. Like, it's too hard. It's too hard to go in it alone. If you don't have to. And Serenity Leadership can be here for you. We're coaching small businesses and entrepreneurs who are really starting out, who don't, necessarily have, people in their life, or again, they might just be too busy, or, in their own, kind of things, and they need that extra coach to come along and help get them through this, or generate ideas, or again, help them set goals and get over these obstacles and these challenges, that every entrepreneur faces. So we're here for you. So I want to let you know, we do, it can be like a business consulting coaching type of package that we do for you, but we do have that available. And then check out Fidelity K9. We're happy to have your dog stay with us and have some fun. I've even, when it's sacrificial, this is my home office. There is a kennel in my home office. So
that's right.
Sacrificial.
There was a dog in it today.
And there was a dog in it today. So
and yesterday there were two. When she came home.
Yeah. Like, hey, I need to work today. So we have given, no, it's great. But hey, thanks for hanging with us today, and I hope you enjoy Nadia's blog. And again, please send in. I sent you a challenge in my blog last week too. We want to hear your entrepreneurial story and about your entrepreneurial spirit and what you think it takes to make it and to have passion for what you're doing. And so please send in little snippets. It can be like a 5-minute, to 20-minute video, and we'd be happy to share that with all of our people online. So don't forget about that challenge I gave you in our blog. So we will see you at the end of the month for our live training on the last Thursday of the month at 7:30. Have a great day, everybody.